Good day, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps Law Firm for seniors and disabled persons. Good to have you here today. My name's Eric, attorney for 46 years now, founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons, no matter what your age, who receive protected income like Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefits. So I want to welcome you. Okay. Um, the title for today is, what does judgment proof mean? Okay. So you might hear that word, uh, judgment proof. What that means is that if someone were to sue you and get a judgment against you, which means there's a court order saying that you owe a certain amount of money, that there's nothing they can do to collect to pay it, and you don't have to pay it. So, for example, if you're a senior or you're on disability and you get Social Security, some type of retirement, a pension, maybe you have a 401k and IRA, those forms of money are protected by federal law, okay, and state laws. They can't be taken from you, okay? So if a creditor were to try to take those monies, they can't take them. So in that sense, your income is judgment proof. Well, what about your assets? Can a judgment take your assets? Well, virtually all states have what's called exemption laws that protect a certain amount of equity in specific types of property. So much equity in a home, so much equity in a car, so much equity in household goods. But it's simply not the practice of, and those vary from state to state, but it's not the practice of a consumer judgment creditor like a credit card to ever go after an asset that you have that may be worth more than what the exemption is in the state where you live. They don't do it for a variety of reasons. A lot of times those assets are owned by a couple and there's no way to divide them, or they're not worth what people think they are. And it's also an extremely expensive process for them to try to go after a piece of property that's not under your exemption. And a lot of times they would have to pay your exemption before they would get any money. So it's just they're not their practice to do that. And I know that because I've been doing this a long time. They don't do it. Now, they might scare you, or someone could write an article and scare you to thinking that that's a possibility. But, by the same token, it's a possibility you could get hit by a bolt of lightning, or you could get hit by a drunk driver going to Circle K on Friday night at 10:37 p.m. So it's not to be concerned about. We talk about that. Okay. Um, and then what about your bank account? Well, back in 2012, there was a law put into effect that tells banks that if they get a writ of garnishment, if someone sued you and got a judgment and they get a writ of garnishment, they're to look at where your money came from. If it came from a federal source, then they times that times two. So I talked to a guy today. In fact, he enrolled. He got, no, it was like $2,400 from Social Security and then $1,600 from a federal pension. Total he got was a little bit over 4,000. So I told him, I said, twice that amount, 4,000 times two, 8,000 is protected automatically from judgment by your bank, regardless of what monies are in there where they come from. Okay. How do they determine the value of assets? Is it auction value? Well, they normally don't even worry about the value of your assets. You could have a car that's maybe worth 10,000. The exemption for the state is 2,000 on a car. So you have $8,000 equity according to the blue book. Maybe they're not going to go after your car. They don't, I mean, it's within theory they could do it, but they just don't do it as a practice. So you don't need to worry. But that's one of the reasons is that, you know, the value of property is not what you think it is. It's always less. So there's a lot of reasons why they don't. Okay. Um, so that's what judgment proof means. Even though they'll get a judgment, they can't collect. Your judgment proof. And that's the case with seniors. If you're signed up with a debt management company or a debt settlement company, and they've got you making payments, and you were never told that your income was protected, you weren't given the complete truth. Okay. You don't need their help. Now, why did they sign you up? Because they get a fee. They get paid if they sign you up. Get money. Okay, but profit and then non-profit ones are both of them. Um, there's a few exceptions, but most of the time they won't tell you that your income's protected. So this person, so if you have any questions, put them in the chat feature. I'll answer them there. Try to answer them. And you can always call us at the number below, toll free. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. The cost of helps is absolutely minimal, and some people get it for free. And I'll go over that as we talk. But you're going to be fine. And the nice thing about helps, see, I filed probably 30, 40,000 bankruptcies approximately before helps was started. And it was started because seniors kept coming to me, and I told them you don't need to file bankruptcy, and they couldn't afford to file bankruptcy. But I knew when they went home, creditors were going to call them and make their lives miserable. So helps was started so we could represent seniors so they don't have to deal with collectors anymore. That's what we do. Okay. And that we represent them ongoing, not just one time, so that they be our client literally forever so they never have to deal with creditors again. Our medical collections reported to the credit bureaus, Mary asked. Maybe if they get to a collection agency, they might be. Okay. I don't see too many doctors reporting to a credit agency. Okay. Ms. H asks, is it the income like Social Security, VA pension determine who is judgment proof, or is it the age? If someone is younger, are they still judgment proof? The answer is yes, they are. It's not this next question I had, I'll just read it. I have a question. What age do you determine an elderly person to be a senior? 60 years old, 62, or 65? Well, I guess it's up to you. But as far as these laws are concerned, now I imagine some people are 50 and they consider themselves a senior. I'm 74. I don't consider myself a senior, although I can hardly believe I'm that old. But anyway, it's not dependent on your age. It's dependent on the source of income. Okay? So if your income is Social Security or pension, disability, VA benefit, or retirement funds, it's protected no matter how old you are. Okay? So we have a lot of clients that might be younger than 60 that maybe are getting VA disability, maybe Social Security disability, and they're part of helps. It doesn't matter your age. Okay, so here's a note from someone who contacted us. I was hoping to see what services you have regarding credit card debt problems. I have one creditor that is getting ready to file a lawsuit. Now, you don't know that. You may think that. Sometimes they want you to think that. But anyway, it doesn't matter if they do or they don't. But anyway, it's a bit detailed as to how I got where I'm at. But there's no way I can pay this debt. I have tried numerous times to make some sort of agreement or settlement. They will not do anything to help me. The interest alone last time I was paying, it was nearly $500 a month. That's nearly half of my monthly income for just this one credit card bill. They are so unreasonable. I tried to call on the 800 line, but the lady who answered did not speak English very well and ended up hanging up on me. If someone could call me, hopefully today, from helps, I need to find out if there's anyone you can or will or you can do to help me. Please respond so I can try and get help to move on. I am trying desperately to not lose our home that my husband and I have shared for almost 40 years now and raised our children. Thank you. You're going to be fine. Okay? And we've probably called this person back, gone over the situation with them, and told them how their income's protected. They're not going to have to worry about their home. We'll talk about that. So if you've got these kind of questions, if you're worried on this stuff, call us. That's what we're here for. I don't want you to worry. Okay. Sometimes people call us 2, 3, 4, 5 times before they decide to enroll, or even more sometimes. Doesn't matter. So Boomer asked, if I'm awarded Social Security back pay, is it protected? The answer is yes. Can't be taken. Now, the question is, I talk a lot about how twice the amount of Social Security is protected in the bank account into which it's deposited, twice the amount you get each month. Well, that's automatic protection by your bank. If you happen to have more than that in there, then the excess could be held up, but then you can file what's called a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption. The excess would be released. Okay? So if you get a back pay, your back pay from Social Security is going to be protected. Now, in order for you even to worry about having your bank account garnished, someone would have to sue you and get a judgment. That's probably not the case with you. That's probably not the case, Boomer. But yeah, if you haven't been sued, you don't need to worry. I mean, they can't they can't attempt to take your money unless they sue and get a judgment. Does SSI, the welfare-based income, protect it also, even though it's from the state? Actually, it doesn't come from the state, but it's come from the Social Security. Uh, my understanding is, and yes, it is. It is protected. You bet. Any form of Social Security is protected automatically. Okay. So Linda asked, as I said some months ago, I understood from December 1993 when my bankruptcy was cleared, I would not recommend as a solution. Bankruptcy can haunt you for a decade or more afterwards. Well, maybe in certain situations. I don't necessarily find that to be the case because I did a lot of bankruptcies. Um, but I talked to a guy this morning. I told him you got three choices. One is to deal with the matter on your own. You could file bankruptcy, and he immediately said, "I don't want to do that. I did that before." And I said, the third option is you don't want to deal with it on your own. It's the helps program. Because what we do is, you give us the creditors you owe money to, or the collectors. We send them a cease and desist letter, and we represent you ongoing. In this guy's case, he got his Social Security on the second Wednesday of the month. So when we enrolled him today. I enrolled him today, earlier today. His payment won't begin till December 14th and the 14th thereafter. Now, why December, even though today's October 22nd? Well, because November 14th is less than 30 days from now. Okay, and we always want the payment to begin between 30 and 60 days in the future. So we make it easy for people. But yet he's enrolled today. I clicked a button. He got an email from us, welcome to Helps, confirming he's a client of Helps. So he can immediately start referring the creditors to us, even though his payment won't begin till December. Okay? Okay. Okay. I have 2 credit cards with Chase, the person asked, and I'm going to stop paying them. My checking account is also with Chase. Can they garnish my checking account? Probably not. I'll explain why. There's a banking rule that says that if you owe the bank money, they cannot offset money out of your bank account to which your Social Security goes, um, unless you gave them permission to do that. And banks normally don't require you give them permission to take money out of your account. Now, I guess that's theoretically possible if you had a pension or other monies going in there other than Social Security. They could offset the money. We don't see that happening as long as Social Security is going in there. But it's theoretically possible, but I don't see it happening. The only exception would be a credit union or Truist Bank, Truist. Now, why is that? Well, credit unions, when you sign up with them, whether you realize it or not, on the loan or either the loan or the checking account agreement you signed with them, You gave them permission to take money out of your account to pay the debt that you owe the credit union. And Truist Bank has started doing the same thing. They're the only bank that does that. Chase doesn't do that. So for this person that inquired of us, um, they're going to list 2 credit cards from Chase. If some people, it's very handy for them to have that bank. They don't want to change it, and they probably don't need to worry about it. Now, if you were concerned about it, you could always change it now. But definitely, if it's a credit union or Truist Bank, and you owe them money you're not going to pay, you're going to want to change to go to a different bank, and that's easy to do. You can do that by calling the Social Security. You need to open a new bank account. Call Social Security, give them the routing number and the account number. They're gonna have the money go to the new account, and you can do it online with Social Security, or you can do it in office. Okay. So HGI says, "Good afternoon. I'm on Social Security, and my income is less than $1,400. I owe the IRS $950. I cannot pay it. What should I do?" Probably not going to need to do anything at all. Okay. First off, uh, the most IRS would do is send you a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of Social Security, which would give you a time to contact the IRS and apply for and get what's called currently not collectible status. But our experience that helps is that the IRS is not going to offset money if your income is really low. The computer system for the IRS tells them that your only income is $1,400 in Social Security. So they know that you can apply for currently not collectible status, and you'll qualify to get it because you're at the poverty line or very close to it. Okay, so they're not even going to try to collect from you, force you to pay the debt. Now they may send you a bill hoping that you'll pay it, and they may do it repeatedly, but they're not going to try to take your money. It'd be highly unlikely that that's the case, that they would choose to offset. I don't think they're going to take money out of your bank account. We don't see that happening. So you should be okay. Yeah, or HGUT, whatever. Okay. So 59 says, "Hello, sir. I got a local city pension and Social Security benefits. My pension is double what my Social Security benefits. Is my pension protected the same as my Social Security benefits because it's in a separate bank?" No, no. It's only federal pensions. It's protected. It's just not protected automatically. Okay. But once again, you don't need to worry about this unless you're sued and they get a judgment. So let's give an example. Let's say you get 1,000 in Social Security and you get 1,500 from your city pension. Okay. So if they all went into the same account, then twice the amount of your federal pension, which would be Social Security, 2,000 would be protected automatically. If someone were to sue you and get a judgment, uh, and they served your bank, which is all pretty unlikely, but if it happened, your bank determines where the money came from. If they see that it came from Social Security, they times that times 2, protects twice that amount, would in your case would be, or in that example's case would be $2,000, even if some of the money came from another source that was deposited into that account. Now, if you had it go into a different account completely and you were garnished, under normally under most state laws, you could file a challenge of garnishment or claim of exemption to get it back. But then you have to go through paperwork. So for that reason, we tell our clients that if you get sued, it's better to have all your monies go into one account into which your Social Security is deposited, or a federal pension or a VA benefit. That's all federal monies, because that sometimes too is protected. So you might say, well, gee, I get $1,500. What happens if it goes over $2,000, which is twice the amount of Social Security? Could they? Then, yeah, the excess could be held up, but if you know that and they have a judgment against you, you could just be careful to make sure that when that $1,500 comes in from that your other benefit, your local city pension, it's not going to bring it over the protected amount. Okay. And that's usually pretty easy to do. But once again, you don't even worry about it unless you were sued. They knew your bank, which is all pretty unlikely. So it's the same thing, Anna, um, with all the banks except for Truist Bank. Um, they're not going to, if you owe the bank, they don't have an arrangement and you haven't given permission to take money out of your account to pay the debt, they're not going to do that. Okay. Marty asked, if Eric, if I got all this debt when I was working and then I went on Social Security, am I still protected? Absolutely. Doesn't matter. Even if you just found out about helps and maybe they have a judgment against you and you made agreement to pay them, you could stop paying them. You don't have to go continue on. Your income's protected. Okay. You're going to be okay. So Roberto says, I live in Arkansas in a home co-owned with my spouse. Is it true that my sole creditors can attach 50% of my home value and force some post-judgment lien acreage sale? Um, boy, I've never seen anything like that happen. Whether they could do that or not, I extremely doubt it. I think someone telling you that, if it's a creditor, they're just trying to buffalo you or scare you. Trying to do something like that would be so complicated, and especially if you own it with your spouse. I've never seen it happen. And look at me, I'm 74. I've been doing this since 1978. I just don't think you need to worry about that. You could always envision something that could happen that is bad, but it's almost like envisioning what happens if the Martians come for dinner on Friday night. They could. The aliens could come. There could be spaceships that come to tomorrow, and they might be friendly, and they could come down and land in front of the White House. And they say, and they could maybe look a little bit like us, but they could communicate with us, and we wouldn't know what to feed them. That is within theory. Do we worry about that? I don't. Okay, but it could happen. So try not to worry about some of these things. Okay, but I don't mind. I don't mind you asking me the questions. We'll go over this. That's the magic with helps. We'll always talk about it. I have Truist Bank, so if LNV gets a judgment against me, will Truist Bank still hand over my Social Security? No. It's the only issue is if you owed the money to Truist Bank. Um, Now, if LVNV funding was collecting for Truist Bank on their debt, then yeah, there could be an issue. But as long as you don't have a loan with Truist Bank, no. Got it? Yeah. Okay. So this guy says, well, this is me. I made this comment. It must be, maybe I talked to someone today. I said, talk to a client from Oklahoma. Home is worth about $220,000. They owe 80,000 plus payments around, the payments are around a little bit over $1,000. Husband and wife. Now, their Social Security, they almost got $3,500 thereabouts, but they were behind $4,000 on the house payments, and they had got it set up with the bank to make payments to cure the arrears over a 4-month period of time. Well, the problem is that the payment normally was $1,050, and now they're supposed to pay $1,600 to cure the arrears. I think it was like an extra $500 at least, $500 or $600. But they only had $900 to make this month's payment. They didn't have any more, and she was really worried. She'd spent up all night last night worrying about this. So, okay, this is what I told them. I said, well, first off, you're not that far behind. You're 3 or 4 months behind. I don't think they're going to foreclose. And you call them on the phone. Are they going to accept the $900? They might not. You could try. But as soon as you have the amount that you agreed on, you can pay that. But you may want to call them again and see if you can get catch up the lower amount at a lower amount. If it's impossible for you to pay it, at least pay the normal payment plus something. Now, let's say worst case. Let's say the bank becomes real jerks and they file foreclosure. Okay, that's the worst case scenario. And these people, their home was worth about 225 and they owed 80. They didn't have enough equity in the home to get a reverse mortgage. It wouldn't be possible. Okay, although we do talk about that for some persons. So what I told, the worst case scenario is they could file what's called a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Then you might say, oh my gosh, bankruptcy. No, under a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, this couple from Oklahoma could resume making their regular mortgage payments of about $1,050 a month, plus the arrears. Let's say the arrears were $5,000. The arrears plus the attorney fees to file the bankruptcy. We don't do that, but I've done thousands of them. We could tell them where to go or who to see, or they could find them on their own. They might have a payment of $175 to $200 a month, in addition to the regular payment, that would stop the foreclosure, wipe out the other debt, and cure the missed arrears. Okay, so there really is no worst case scenario for this couple. I guess that's the worst case, but it's not bad. I mean, that would be cheap. They're not going to lose their home, and it's a payment that they're going to struggle with it, but they'll be able to afford. So, in addition to protecting seniors from collectors harassing you, what helps does is we educate you about your financial rights. And that's why we have this YouTube video, YouTube Live, Monday through Thursday. Okay, now tomorrow's Thursday. It'll be 2 hours later. Okay, and you can always listen, or you can listen to our past ones, or we got other videos on our YouTube channel. We also do a lot of videos, have done a lot of videos with senior living on their YouTube channel on different topics. Okay, so, and then you can always call us. We don't want you to worry. So Tweety Bird asked, I was sued, not sure if I have a judgment yet, but to keep the bank account from doubling Social Security account, would I just take a cash withdrawal? That allows you to, yeah, you do that. Do that. Now, if you wanted to save it up, you could put it into a preloaded debit card or, different things. Now, but you probably would know if you had a judgment. But remember, if it's only Social Security going in there, even if it's over twice the amount, only the excess over twice the amount could be held up. And then you could file a challenge garnishment or claim exemption to get that money released. Occasionally, we'll tell people how to do that. We'll give them some instructions on how to do that. But it just doesn't happen very often that that's an issue. Okay? Nice thing about helps is you can always call us. That's what we want. I don't want anyone sitting up at home up all night worrying. If you're worried, you call us on the phone. My pet peeve, and I've said it before, is if someone calls and they say, I've been really worried about this, but I know you guys are busy and I didn't want to bother you. No, you bother us. You call us. Helps was founded so seniors would not have to worry. They could always have someone to call. Okay? Okay, so I talked to someone, I think today, and he enrolled him. He's from Arkansas. He gets Social Security and a federal pension. So both those are federal benefits, so both that is protected. He had $10,000 in credit card debt, a little bit more than that, and then he was way upside down on a camper he couldn't afford. So what I told him, I said, you don't have to pay the camper anymore. He could stop making that payment. He said he did. He had stopped paying it, and told him they're going to eventually pick it up. They're going to sell it. You're going to send you a notice of deficiency. And then when you get that, you send that to us. We'll send a cease and desist letter to the lender who sent you that notice of deficiency. Now, what is that? That's the amount you owe after they sold the camper and they deducted it from the balance on the loan. It's a deficiency notice. And then I told him, I said, now on these credit cards, you don't need to pay him. He said, well, I can probably handle those. It'll be difficult. I said, well, you can if you want, but you don't have to. And after a while, he said, yeah, maybe I'll just keep a couple of them. So that's right. You can do that because, he had some money, but he didn't have a whole lot. And see, Congress protected these monies for seniors so that they would have enough money for their food, for their medicine, for their housing, utilities. Okay, it's protected. So this person contacts us from Texas and they say, Credit One is a debt collector, says I owe $1,230. Now it's with Resurgent Capital. The Credit One may be the original creditor, and then they turn it over to Resurgent Capital, which is a debt collector. If I don't answer, they're going to hire a lawyer. That's what they say. Well, so what? If your income is protected, they could hire 1,000 lawyers. They can't do anything to you. Okay? You're going to be fine. See, these debt collectors, they don't have to tell you that your income is protected. Okay? They don't have to tell you why they can't really take any of your assets. Their only job is to try to collect from you, and they're not going to give you your rights. They don't have to do that. Now you're going to hear it from me and from you from helps. But if you get on the internet and start typing these questions in, boy, sometimes it's hard to find the right answer. You debt management or debt settlement companies that try to sign you up and have you make monthly payments, they're not going to tell you. National Council on Aging gets 50 million or more from the government each month, and their their mission is to protect seniors, especially those that are struggling. And those are the seniors that owe money. They're not going to tell you in their articles. They're going to point you towards debt management. They've not. In their articles, never mention the fact that your Social Security is protected, so is your pension, and that you can be protected from paying the debt. Instead, they steer people to debt management companies. Okay, so this guy says, Jim says, I'm getting mean phone calls from guys saying they're about to sue me by the end of the day unless I call them and pay them. Scammers, debt collector scammers. Uh, they're telling you they're going to sue you by the end of the day. That's definitely a scam. In fact, under the Fair Debt Collection Practices, a collector cannot threaten to sue you unless they're actually going to sue you. Okay? So, but if they're telling you they're going to sue you before the end of the day, I got so many examples of this stuff. You know, some of these guys, they develop an art form. You don't need to talk to them. And if you have any questions, call us on the phone. Okay. It's a collection agency. Well, they may say they're a collection agency, but they're not legitimate because if they're threatened to sue you before the end of the day, that's a lie. Okay. But you don't need to worry about it, Jimmy or Jamel. As long as your income's protected, they can't. So what if they sue you? If you're a helps client, you get sued. We ask you to get us a copy of the lawsuit. We usually need the first 2 or 3 or 4 pages. We're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued you. We're going to let them know that your income's protected. You're not going to pay it. We're going to call you on the phone, explain why you don't need to go to court. We're going to send you an email with links to videos and articles about why your income's protected and why you don't need to go to court. And we're there to answer your question. If they get a judgment, you're instructed on how to protect your income. So you're going to be fine. So CK asks, I'm a helps client about 2 years from Michigan. Capital One received a judgment and court docket say 2035. Does it automatically go to a lien on the home? Um, Normally, a judgment is a lien on a home that's located in the county where the judgment is. Okay. In most states, if you had a home in another different county, they'd have to transfer the judgment. But they're not going to take the home. And then if you own the home with the spouse, CK, and let's say uh, you're the husband and you own it with a wife, uh, if you passed away before your wife, the judgment was just against you, then the judgment disappears, goes away. So you can call if you're going to sell the home and there's a problem. You can call and talk to us. We'll talk to you about options. Um, my wife just asked me something about my brother. She's listening to me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can find out. Just a minute. Just emailed my sister. Okay. Um, Jimmy asked Katrina, my car is a 2016 with 15,000 miles on it. The original tires. Oh, okay. That's not. Ken says, I'm thinking of opening up a new bank account with Wells Fargo. Is there anything I should know about them? I'm on Social Security and being sued with. No, they're fine. Yeah, my brother's sick, and, and my wife is out on errands, and apparently I don't answer my cell phone when I'm on YouTube Live. So she got on YouTube Live to text me, okay, or to answer a question here. Okay. Person contacts us from Ohio. I am 66 on Social Security with no assets. Thank you. Um, I rent, no vehicle. I'm disabled with 15,000 in credit card debt, which I'm having difficulty paying. I have no savings. I was told to contact you for help. Well, you were told the right thing because we'll be able to help you. You're going to be fine. Okay. Okay. So, a person contacts us from Arizona. I'm on Social Security disability. I'm so stressed out about money. I have a credit card debt and a high lot rent. They must have a mobile home in a park. It's becoming too much. I had to get rid of my 2018 car because I couldn't afford the payment insurance. Now I drive an older Buick. Credit card debt is just over 10,000. I'm 62 years old. I'll never be free of this debt. That's what they're saying. Uh, it's lowering my credit rating today. I have $300 to my name. I'm freaking out because it's now October 16th, and now I've got to stretch that until the end of the month, till November 3rd when I get my Social Security again. I'm so stressed out. Well, I'm sorry. I don't want you to be stressed out. I guess what I tell this person is you don't need to pay the credit card debt anymore. You can stop paying it, and you can have that money for your needs. Now, if you have a credit card with a real small balance that you wanted to keep, you could keep that one if it's important to you. Now, you're getting Social Security disability, so I know you're not getting a lot of money. Um, and you let that car go back. If you end up owing money on that car, you're not going to have to pay it. If you're worried about the creditors bothering you, you can roll in helps. You're going to give us the creditors you owe money to. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter, and they're going to leave you alone. Um, I can't do anything about that. You only have $300 to the end of the month, but I'm assuming that's going to last you. It's getting close. It's only a week away now, almost a little over a week away. These things have a way of working out. Okay. Um, so try not to be no. Uh, uh, Now you got an older Buick Century. I'm assuming you don't owe any money on that. So yeah. So we always go over people and go over their situation and figure out what we can do. Okay. I like local credit unions. I don't have any problem with local credit unions. Just you just don't want to owe them money. Okay. If you owe them money, then it can become difficult. Um, I'm not understanding this message from Janie. They called me back. They said they take the 900 thing next month, have pay extra. Thank you. Not sure. Okay. Okay. So there's a person contacts us from Illinois and they say, I understand that credit cards cannot go after your Social Security, but my question is about a car. I'm getting loaned from an insurance policy and I have questions about about buying a cheap used car. I tell you right now, it won't be a problem. They're not going to take it. Uh, uh, I am a senior citizen, retired, only income is Social Security. Also, do you have a letter that I can give to my new landlord when I move? Yeah, we got what we call a landlord letter that explains to a prospective landlord that even if you may have negative interest on your credit, all your income is protected, available to pay your rent. Okay, your Social Security is protected, so is your pension. We call it a landlord letter, and we'll give it to anyone, whether they're a member of HELPS or not. So this person writes in, I think this was a comment on one of our videos or one video that we were involved with. It says, I'm a senior citizen. Would my wages be garnished? Okay, I'll read you my answer. Your retirement income, including Social Security, is protected from garnishment. Whether uh, whether your wages could be garnished depends. First, you would have to be sued and a judgment entered. So you don't even need to worry about it if no one sued you. And they'd have to know where you work, which isn't always easy to find out. In some states, garnishment of wages is not permitted. Texas. Um, Federal law protects a minimum of $217.50 net in wages in each week in every state, and some that's $430 every 2 weeks, about $945 a month, and in some states protect more than that. Um, California protects like $700 or more. Just it depends on the state, but a lot of states protect. But in every state, a minimum of $217.50 net is protected. That law went into effect in about 1996, and the federal government isn't going to raise it. They've determined, at least they're not now going to raise it. I doubt they ever will. They've just determined they're going to leave it up to the states to increase the amount of protected wages. So it depends what state you're in. But they'd have to sue you, get a judgment, and find out where you work. And then I finished. I said, you can always call helps and go over your situation. And I say that to you listening in here. Okay? You can always call and talk to us. 855 435-7787. Doesn't matter how many times you call. So this person contacts us from Ohio. I'm 79 years old and have been working with a debt relief company. Well, what am I going to say to that? I'm going to ask him, did they tell you your income was protected? Probably not. And he says, I need to use a judgment-proof order because my debts are beyond what I can afford. Well, there is no such thing as a judgment-proof order. Okay, you can be judgment-proof, but there's no court order that says that. Ms. HX, can a landlord evict a tenant for a minor dispute over renter's insurance? Tenant never late, never short on rent, ever have a lease, and at renewal time, can they ask you to leave? Theoretically, they can. Yeah, yeah. Landlords are definitely at an advantage, and some of them are jerks, some of them aren't. If a landlord, if you think about it, if a landlord had a tenant that was a good tenant, never complained, never, and always paid their rent on time, they'd be foolish to try to ask them to leave. The only time they would ask someone to leave, I think, is they had a problem with the rent and or they were a complainer. Okay. Can a tenant sue them for a reason for what they're doing? You can sue anyone for anything in this country. Whether you're going to win or not is a different matter. And whether you find anyone to file the lawsuit. I have we've got these preloaded emails on different topics. I've got one on problems with landlords that I have. It's not very popular because one of the things I talk about is the fact that landlords do have you're not equal when it comes to a landlord. Now, yeah, there's certain things that you just have to stand up for, and there are certain laws. There's disability laws and stuff, and but it's a lot of times it's hard to get someone to help you enforce the law. But anyway, we'll always talk to someone about those issues. So Boomer asked, after a default judgment, they send out interrogatories to find a job in banking infos. Do you have to fill those out? Well, it doesn't hurt to fill them out because most of the time the senior doesn't have anything that they can get at. Okay, or even if they have banking information, your income's protected. A lot of times the reason they send those out is because the law allows them to do that, and the judgment creditor, the attorney, they count on the senior not understanding the law and being scared when they get those forms and call them on the phone to make arrangements to pay when the senior really doesn't have to pay. So we'll go over those things with a person if you get one of those. If you get a default judgment and you get a questionnaire that you're supposed to fill out. It's just a real minority of states that have an automatic questionnaire that goes out that attorneys take advantage of. The big one is Florida. They have the fact information sheet that they send out. And then Texas has a couple things they send out, but you don't need to be scared about it. Oh, the mortgage company. Okay, so let me back up here and look here. Oh, so I talked to Janie this morning, and she only had to pay part of the money, and I suggested she call. I said they might not take it, but it looks like they took it, and she'll pay the difference next month. Yeah, you're only a few months behind. They don't want to foreclose, Janie. So good. That's good. That's a good thing. We see there's no worst case scenario here. Okay. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that. So this person writes in, they say, will student loans renegotiate debt? I'm almost 70 and I want to build a new home, but student loan is at $1,200 a month, which I couldn't afford with a mortgage. Will they renegotiate this down to say $200 a month? I'm on a deferral right now. Well, it depends what your income is. You may not have to pay it at all, and whether you can get the loan or not, or whether if you can get the loan and you can't afford the mortgage, the student loan, what are they going to do? They're not going to sue you. They don't. Student loans don't sue. The most they would do is offset 15% of Social Security, and they're not even doing that now. So yeah, student loans are kind of held in abeyance at this moment. And for a lot of modest or lower income seniors, if they ever start trying to collect, probably going to be able to get on what's called income-based repayment plan where you don't have to pay them anything. But right now, the government isn't trying to take money out of your Social Security. Now, student loans, federal student loans, they don't sue. They theoretically could, they just don't do it. And they never really have, that I can remember. Maybe decades ago, but they don't do it. And then they're not going to take any money out of your pension or other forms of retirement, just 15% of your Social Security, and they're not even doing that now. So there's a lot of reasons student loans aren't really an issue. Okay, so person asks, so what do we do about the debt if we cannot pay it back? What debt do we not have to pay, and what do we say to the debt collectors? Well, yeah, if you're on Social Security, this is a comment on one of our YouTube videos. Someone put a comment. If you have debt, you can't. What kind of debt? You don't have to pay any of it back. You don't want to. I mean, the only debt that you would have that could be a real problem is if you owe past child support, but that's usually not an issue. What debt do we not have to pay? And what do we say to the debt collectors? Well, I mean, you could tell them you don't have to pay it, but you don't even have to talk to them if you don't want to. And if you don't want to deal with them, then they can be sent a cease and desist letter and they can't even bother you. And you can just look at our videos and learn what helps does. And if you want help with this, so we represent you so you don't have to deal with them yourself, call the number below. Call us 3 or 4 times. Look at our videos. Look at our website. Look at all the articles. If you decide you want to help, we can enroll you. So the cost of helps is minimal. Most a person would pay would be $40 for 24 months, $20 for 24 months free thereafter, or $30 for 24 months, $15 for 24 months free thereafter, or $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months free thereafter. But we make it work for people. Okay. Remember, when you enroll in helps, you don't have to pay these other creditors. You stop paying them. So I'm sorry, Les, because I've heard this a million times, and I'm going to repeat it again. But that's okay. That's what this is for. He says, I questioned my bank about protecting my Social Security. They spent time and said they did not know what I was talking about. That's right. They don't. I've yet to talk to a bank manager that knows the rule. But there's a department in the bank that deals with garnishments that understands that twice the amount of your federal benefits deposited in your account is automatically protected from garnishment, and they're going to protect your income. It's not the bank manager that deals with garnishments. It's a department within the bank. And if it's a big bank, there's a big department. And definitely a clerk behind the teller machine is going to know the rule. And I've never talked to, and I've also said this, and I still stand by it. I bet that probably 999 out of 1,000 attorneys don't understand this rule. It's still been in effect since 2012. It's been in effect since 2012. But you can Google it and search it, and you'll come up. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will explain it all. Your income is put twice the amount of your federal benefits deposited in your checking account is automatically protected from garnishment. regardless of what other funds are in there where they came. Twice the amount you get each month. But you're right, your bank won't know the rule. Now, I've had some banks, people tell me, they'll say, well, my bank says, if we get an order from a judge, we've got to comply with it. Well, the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Who told someone that? Doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. You know, people find out about us. A lot of our clients find out about it, listen to this YouTube live. So this other guy calls me. He says, what can they sue? Can they sue and take your IRA account money? IRA is an independent retirement account. Well, they can sue, but they can't take your independent retirement account, and they can't take your 401k. They can't take your social. You know, that money's protected. Okay, you're going to be okay. What form I need for the non-current collection form? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're saying. If you've got a question that I can't answer today, call us on the phone. We'll go over this. So, what form do I need for maybe non-collectible or judgment-proof form? There is no form. Okay, there's no magic form. If your income is protected, it's protected. Non-current collection status, you're talking about currently not collectible status with the IRS. Well, yeah, we can email if you're getting Social Security or a small amount of money, and the IRS is not going to offset any of your Social Security for a tax debt until they send you a letter saying they're going to do it after 60 days, which gives you plenty of time to contact the IRS to get on currently not collectible status. And you may not need, if your income is lower, if it's like $2,500 or less or $3,500 or less, if you're a couple, and closer to the poverty line, the easier. You can often get on currently not collectible status without having to fill out a form. Okay? Where do I find the video about landlords and tenants? I don't think we have a video. We have an article on that. Okay? And we may have a letter that we send to people. I don't like sending it out sometimes. The reason why? Well, I always send it out if people want it. But, you know, a lot of tenants, they don't like the idea that they may not have as many rights as the landlord does. It's really irritating to them. I'm just telling you my experience as an attorney, and practically speaking, if a landlord wants you, if you tick him off and they're mad at you and they want to get you out, they're usually going to find a way to do it. It could be tough. Not for everyone, but it could be. So you want to pick your battles carefully with a landlord. So, yep, it's been an hour. I will see you tomorrow, 2 hours later tomorrow. Okay? Have a great day. Nothing to worry about. God bless. We'll see you.